I have finally gotten around to listening to the 10th Doctor Adventures, Volume 1, and I absolutely want to talk about it, so here we go. The first story on this box set is Technophobia, and Technophobia feels very much like a story from the David Tennant era. From the pacing to the writing of the dialogue, basically everything about this one feels like a 10th Doctor episode, even down to the same intro and outro, which was a touch that I really appreciated. The only thing that feels different is the music, but we'll get back to that. And firstly, David Tennant and Catherine Tate are great in this story. They stepped back into these roles so effortlessly, it genuinely feels like this was recorded in 2008 when Series 4 came out. And there's just so many moments from the 10th Doctor that feel exactly like the 10th Doctor. So he was very well performed and written, and that really helps in making this an enjoyable story. And of course, Donna is the same as ever, being flirtatious and funny and just one of the best companions ever, so she's really great in this, as one would expect. And the story in this one works pretty well. It's engaging and enjoyable to listen to it play out, and the basic premise of Technophobia is that everybody all of a sudden starts getting terrified of technology, anything ranging from vacuums to escalators, and that's admittedly an interesting premise. And it's kind of fun to see where it goes from there and the obstacles that they encounter along the way. And the supporting cast is pretty solid in this one. There aren't a lot of other characters in here, but there's a couple, and for the most part I quite like them, and I thought that they were well used. Also, I mentioned the music earlier. It feels notably different from Series 4 music, as it is not composed by Murray Gold, but the music is solid and works rather well with the story. So yeah, basically everything works pretty well in this one, but nothing specifically stands out as being great other than the Doctor and Donna. So basically, this is a pretty good story, which is elevated by our main cast, because a lesser Doctor-companion dynamic would have been way less enjoyable and engaging. The second story from this box set is Time Reaver, and this one I found myself enjoying a bit more than the first one. I actually had to listen to this one twice because I had a few too many interruptions during my first listen with different things going on that distracted me, and I wasn't able to completely give it my attention, so to be fair to it, I listened to it a second time, which pretty much just reaffirmed my initial thoughts on it. So, like the first one, David Tennant and Catherine Tate are both great as their characters, and they have fantastic chemistry, and that translates even better in this second story because they just spend more time together in this one, which basically just means that I had more fun while listening. So this story does have quite a few elements among it, and there's a number of different locations and characters and things going on. So basically, if you're doing something else while listening to this one, then you might have a hard time following what's going on. So the basic premise of this one is that it takes place on the planet of Calibris, which is basically a hub for the galaxy. People are passing through from one end of the galaxy to the other, and in this story we encounter something called a Time Reaver, which is, as the description puts it, an illegal weapon that destroys lives, slowly and agonizingly. And since it doesn't give you more information than that, I won't either. But I will say that the weapon is a really cool idea and is quite well utilized in this story. One thing that was a little more mixed for me was Gully, who basically plays this octopus gangster, and he works serviceably for me. He does very much feel like a run-of-the-mill villain, but because the other elements in this story work quite well, you can kind of forgive that. Also, the voice modulation for Gully does sometimes feel like a bit too much. It feels as though, because this is in an audio medium, they have to compensate for the fact that you can't see what he looks like. So that, therefore, they make him sound more different, which kind of makes sense on paper, but doesn't totally work for me, although it is something that I can roll with. And the guest cast is really solid in this one. There's a couple of alien characters that add a good amount to this story, and I appreciated them. Also, there was a couple of well-handled Series 4 Easter eggs in this one, which helped to make it feel like it could slide right into Series 4, and for the most part, it does feel like a Series 4 episode, although slightly different because of the music and certain things that wouldn't work on the TV show, like the Gangster Octopus. But for the most part, it feels like it would really fit well into Series 4. And also, there are some spoilery things in this story that happen towards the end that were really good moments, and a couple of things that happen towards the end really just helped to elevate this one into a quite solid story rather than a pretty solid story. So this one is really solid, even better than the last one, and I found myself really digging it and having quite a bit of fun, mostly due to the amazing chemistry of the leads. There are also some really cool and well-handled ideas in this one, and some great moments towards the end that elevate the story, even if there are a couple of elements that don't completely work for me. Death and the Queen is sadly my least favorite on this box set. It is by no means a bad story. It just doesn't stand out particularly. There is some really good stuff with Donna, there's some really good stuff with the Doctor. It has my favorite opening on this box set, actually. The way it opens into the intro, it just had me smiling a lot. And even remembering it now, it's really good. And this is a historical set episode, and it does have, you know, some elements that are obviously not a part of history. And for the most part, it's rather well handled. There are parts where it's a little bit confusing what's happening, and then when you realize it, it's like, oh, that's all? Huh. And, I mean, it just doesn't really come together for me. But I did love Donna in this one, and the Doctor, and they're good. And I do wish maybe there was more of them together, because there is a good amount, but maybe more would have helped this one to feel just more engaging, because when those two are sharing screen time, although not screen time in the case of an audio medium, then they elevate everything that's going on. And yeah, I like what's happening in this story. There's like this army of skeletons and stuff, and it's, you know, it's fine. But I do like this story, and I don't want to come across like I'm nagging on this one, because it's enjoyable. Like, it's pretty good. Almost pretty good. It's if it was in Series 4, for me, it would be the worst episode of Series 4. Let's put it like that. I think every episode of Series 4, and even the other two on this box set, are better than this one. So that's a bit of a shame, because that makes it kind of not feel like it's from Series 4, because Series 4 is better than this, even though this is enjoyable, if that makes sense. So yeah, by no means a bad story, but also not one that I'm going to find myself revisiting anytime soon. Overall, I found the 10th Doctor Adventures Volume 1 to be a really enjoyable box set. All three of the stories on here were at least enjoyable, and some of them were quite solid. And of course, the standout for me was the second one, Time Reaver. And yeah, this is enjoyable. The main standout from this whole box set, is just Catherine Tate and David Tennant as those characters together. Again, it's absolutely fantastic, and I love it, and they're brilliant, and I love hearing them together, and that's my favorite thing about this, is just them having more adventures that I didn't think they would have again. And so yeah, I'm really happy to check this one out, because this is a solid box set. It's got enjoyable stories, although for the most part, none of the stories are particularly standout. What is standout is the main cast, David Tennant and Catherine Tate, although the second one, Time Reaver, does have a little bit more going on, and it is a little bit more engaging than those other two, and that one stands out a little bit more, even if the villain isn't quite as good. So yeah, this is a very enjoyable box set. It's got its problems, but there's a lot that works with this one, and makes it well worth checking out. And I'm going to give the 10th Doctor Adventures Volume 1 a rating of 7.75 out of 10. So yeah, that's that. This video was totally meant to be in August, and I had listened to these in July in preparation for that, but August was a really busy month for me, and I had a lot going on, and even my review of the final game got delayed, and this one got delayed even more, because that one was more important for me to get out, and hopefully I'll already have the final game episode 2 reviewed, or maybe that'll come out later. I'm not sure. There's a lot going on. Who knows when things are going to happen and when things aren't going to happen. But at the very least, whenever you're hearing this, is finally out. So yes, have you listened to the 10th Doctor Adventures Volume 1? What did you think about them? Is it your thing? Is it not? Let me know. I'm sure I'll be back to review the 10th Doctor Adventures Volume 2 as soon as I can. I was planning to make these Big Finish things a monthly adventure, where once a month I would review something Big Finish. That might not happen just due to how busy I'm gonna be. these upcoming months, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, that's going to do it for now, folks. What did you think about the 10th Doctor Adventures Volume 1? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Be sure to let me know down below. And with that said, thank you for watching. Take care, and have a lovely week.